I'm 82 years old and I learned too late that trust can empty a life out from the inside. Not all at once. Not in some dramatic collapse, just slowly, quietly, until there's very little left that belongs to you. When you reach this age, you start counting things differently. Not money, not birthdays. You count who still calls. You count the chairs at the table that stay empty. You count the number of people who remember who you used to be. I don't have many left. I'm not telling you this because I'm angry. I'm past that. Anger takes energy, and I don't have much of it anymore. I'm telling you because I spent most of my life believing that family meant safety, that blood meant loyalty, that if you gave everything to your own, they would hold you steady when your legs started to shake. It doesn't always work that way. When I was younger, I was the dependable one. The one people called when something broke. I worked at a machine shop for 36 years. Same building, same oil-stained floors. I left before sunrise and came back after dark more times than I can count. My wife, Eleanor, used to tease me about the smell of metal clinging to my jackets. She'd hang them near the back door and shake her head. "You'll rust before the machines do," she'd say. We had 2 sons, Daniel and Mark, good boys, or at least they were boys once. I coached Little League when I could, missed more games than I should have. There was always overtime, always a reason. I told myself I was doing it for them. We bought a modest house in 1972, nothing special. White siding, small yard. I built a wooden swing set out back with my own hands. Took me 2 weekends. The boys used it for years. I remember the sound of their shoes dragging in the dirt as they tried to slow down. Those are the memories that come back now, not the promotions, not the raises. Back then, I trusted easily. My brothers borrowed money from me more than once. I co-signed a loan for my younger sister when her husband lost his job. I didn't hesitate. That's what family does, I thought. There was a Christmas in 1989 when my older brother Frank asked to use my name to secure a small business loan. He had plans for a hardware store. He said he just needed someone with clean credit. Eleanor wasn't sure. "What if it doesn't work out?" she asked me quietly in the kitchen. "It's Frank," I said. He'd never let me down. The store lasted 18 months. When it folded, so did the loan. Frank filed for bankruptcy. I couldn't. I had the house in my name. I had 2 boys heading toward college. I didn't fight him. I didn't yell. I just picked up extra shifts, sold the second car. We stopped taking vacations. Frank moved to Arizona a year later. We speak once a year now, short calls, weather talk. That wasn't the moment I stopped trusting. I told myself it was just bad luck. Years passed. The boys grew up, college degrees, jobs in other states. I was proud of them. I still am, in a way. When Eleanor got sick, it was quick. Pancreatic cancer, 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. I had trusted that we would grow old together. That's the kind of trust no one talks about. The quiet assumption that tomorrow will resemble today. It doesn't ask permission when it changes. After she died, the house felt too big, too quiet. Daniel suggested I move closer to him. He lived 3 states away by then. "Sell the house, Dad," he said. "Come out here. You shouldn't be alone." It sounded reasonable, sensible. I trusted him. We sold the house. I split the proceeds between myself and a savings account I opened jointly with Daniel. It was easier that way, he said, in case something happened to me, in case bills needed paying. I moved into a small in-law suite attached to his place. At first, it felt like a second chance at family. I drove my granddaughter to school, sat at the kitchen table while my daughter-in-law cooked dinner. I tried not to get in the way, but homes have rhythms, and I wasn't part of theirs. I heard arguments through the walls sometimes, about money, about space, about me. "She's not your responsibility," my daughter-in-law said once. I think she thought I couldn't hear. Daniel grew distant, busy, always tired. The joint account became a point of tension, small withdrawals at first, then larger ones. "Just covering some expenses, Dad," he'd say. "We're all under the same roof." I nodded. It felt awkward to question him. He was my son. The money drained faster than I understood. One afternoon I went to the bank alone, asked for a statement. The teller looked uncomfortable. "Sir, most of the funds have been transferred," she said gently. Transferred. Such a clean word. When I confronted Daniel, he didn't shout. He didn't apologize either. "We needed it," he said. "You weren't using it." I remember standing in that kitchen, my hands resting on the back of a chair. I wasn't even angry, just confused. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was the realization that I had mistaken proximity for loyalty. Within a year, the atmosphere in that house changed completely. Polite but cold. I felt like a guest who had overstayed. Mark offered to take me in next. He lived in a smaller place, 2-bedroom apartment. Said we'd figure it out. I almost said yes. But something inside me had shifted, a small, hard piece that hadn't been there before. I rented a modest apartment instead, 1 bedroom, 3rd floor, no elevator. I live there still. Mark visits occasionally. Daniel calls on holidays. The grandchildren send texts I don't always know how to answer. I'm not destitute. I get by on my pension and social security. I cook simple meals. I keep the place tidy. But there is a difference between surviving and belonging. Trust, I've learned, is not a guarantee. It's not an insurance policy against loneliness. I used to believe that sacrifice created a kind of invisible contract, that if you worked hard, gave freely, showed up when needed, the favor would be returned. Life doesn't keep contracts like that. The irreversibility came quietly, not with the bank account, not with the move. It came the night I slipped in the bathroom and lay on the tile for nearly an hour before I could pull myself up. I didn't call either of my sons. That's when I knew something permanent had changed. Not because they wouldn't come. Maybe they would have, eventually. But because I no longer expected them to. That absence of expectation is a lonely thing. What's permanently lost isn't just money or a house. It's the version of myself who believed without hesitation, the man who signed papers because his brother asked, who merged bank accounts because his son suggested it. That man is gone. Time doesn't give refunds. It doesn't restore the house we sold or the arguments I overheard or the looks exchanged across a dinner table. It doesn't bring Eleanor back to the kitchen doorway. Sometimes I sit by the window in the late afternoon. The light hits the opposite building just right. I think about how certain I was that family was a fixed point. Maybe it is for some people. For me, it became something conditional, dependent on convenience, on finances, on space. If you're listening to this, I'm not telling you to shut your heart. I'm not telling you to harden yourself against everyone who shares your blood. I'm telling you that love and trust are not the same thing. I loved my family, I still do, but I trusted without boundaries, without paperwork, without quiet protections that might have preserved a little more of my independence. I assumed intentions were enough. They aren't. There's a difference between helping and handing over. I didn't see it when I was younger. I thought questioning family meant doubting them, and doubting them felt like betrayal. Now I understand that blind trust can also be a betrayal of yourself. I don't say this with bitterness. My sons are not monsters. They are ordinary men with mortgages and pressures and flaws. I raised them that way, imperfect. Maybe they tell the story differently. Maybe, in their version, I agreed to everything. Maybe they think I was generous. Maybe I was. But generosity without limits can turn into disappearance. At 82, I measure my days by small routines. Coffee at 7, a short walk if my knees allow it. The evening news playing too loudly. I don't expect to be taken in again. I don't expect apologies. I don't expect much at all. And that's a kind of peace, though not the warm kind. If I'd understood earlier that trust should be steady and deliberate, not automatic, I might still have the house. I might still have a little more leverage. I might have felt less like a burden when I needed help. But I didn't know. Or maybe I didn't want to know. You think family means you can close your eyes? Sometimes it just means you should keep them open. I won't be here much longer. The doctors don't say it outright, but I see the way they look at my chart. 82 is not 90, but it's close enough to feel the edge. When I go, there won't be much to sort through. A few photographs, some old tools, a watch Eleanor gave me on our 25th anniversary. I hope my sons remember the swing set more than the bank account. I hope they remember that I showed up, even when I shouldn't have trusted so easily. And if you're younger, if you still believe that loyalty is automatic and permanent, I won't tell you you're wrong. I'll just say this. Protect a small corner of your life that belongs only to you. Not out of suspicion, out of respect for your own future. I learned that too late. Now I sit in this quiet apartment, listening to the pipes knock in the walls, and I understand that trust is a gift. It should be given carefully. Not even family is exempt from that. That's not bitterness speaking. It's just what's left of me.